was I at in life when Star Wars A New Hope was released? It was summer of 1977 when Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope was released. At that time of my life, I was a disabled child preparing for his bar mitzvah. But what was my background in science fiction at that time? Was science fiction new to me? No, man, I was raised on Star Trek, steampunk, and all the kind of crappy sci-fi they'd play on television on Saturday afternoons. So, since I was raised on science fiction, was Star Wars kind of boring? No, it set tropes on their head. I was used to seeing Holy Man as coward or Holy Man as con man, but this was the first time, thanks to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Alec Guinness, that I saw Holy Man depicted as hero and kind mentor. I knew that was for me. So what was my reaction to it? I knew it was for me, and then therefore I just took off. I studied every religion I could get my hands on, looking for a type of practical magic. I studied Judaism, Christianity, Taoism, shamanism, Hinduism, and each sect of Buddhism, with the hyperfixation of a neurodivergent. Well, then I must have been smooth sailing, au contraire, due to neurodivergence exacerbated by fetal alcohol syndrome, birth trauma, brain damage, CPTSD, and the Epstein-Barr virus. I was a square peg in a round hole in a world where everyone wanted me to be like Mace Windu, just Yang, just rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, cryptic, and cruel. There was no way I could be that way. I was not wired to be that way. Not because I was necessarily good, just because I was wired differently. So you can imagine how well I related to Qui-Gon Jinn when Star Wars Episode 1 A New Hope was released more than 20 years ago. At last, there was someone in the Star Wars universe who I could relate to in terms of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So for more than 30 years, for more than 8 hours a day, I studied, practiced, mastered, and reverse engineered each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Let's tie this up in a big red bow. And so, in the bottom line, I have spent my life trying to find shortcuts to enlightenment so that everyday folk would not have to quit their job and get a bad haircut and wear weird robes, so that folks can do it as a hobby in remarkably quick time. In less than 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. So I'd like to wrap this up in a big red bow by quoting from the 15th verse of the total space of Vajrasattva, or Dorje Sempa Numka Chai, composed by Prahe Vajra, also known as Gaurav Dorje, the founder of Dzogchen. Let's chant. Attachment and non-attachment are the path of words, and something in the middle is the same like an echo. Happiness and suffering have the same cause, said Vajrasattva, Lord of all beings. For those of us who are differently abled, those disabilities are not an indictment. And life can be difficult for us, but not impossible. We can still master the Buddha's path. Just because we're a square peg in a round hole doesn't make us wrong. Because whether you're the poster boy for rule keeping like Mace Windu, or whether you're a rebel without a cause like Qui-Gon Jinn, all beings everywhere, including ourselves, can be noticed as we breathe in and can be released when we breathe out. When we relax into our exhalation, this sense of self that we notice when we breathe in could feel as if it was as non-graspable as if it was birthless, as non-graspable as if it was selfless, as non-graspable as if it was deathless, as non-graspable as if it was a vast, empty void. That the experience that we are wired to notice during each exhalation, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, is the great equalizer. Despite differences, superficial and trivial and unimportant. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I'm a guy who's acquired expertise in each school of Buddhism, yet has a very limited wardrobe. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Let us perform a recitation to exercise the neural pathways responsible for empathetic, bodhicitta, and enthusiastic refuge. These are not prayers. These are just ways of exercising our intention. Our first recitation is going to be more literal and set to a triplet chant. The triplet parts are right here. That's why there are 3 notes. It's not necessarily easy on the eyes, but it's the best I could do. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Notice these 3 words at the bottom. They're so useful that they've earned the nickname of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels, kind of like Aladdin's lamp. This brings us to our second and final recitation prior to meditation. It's going to be more concise and more figurative than the one that came before it, and we are chanting it, or we are reciting it in harmony with a bookend chant together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. Now, together, as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo. Now, as children, most likely one of our caregivers bolted some training wheels to the back of our bicycle. It was clunky, but it got the job done. Similarly, this evening's first meditation is going to be clunky. We're talking about 12-syllable inhalations, where we silently and mentally recite perceiving this very turbulent play of mind, and an additional 12-syllable exhalation, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Is it clunky? Yeah, sure, you betcha. But it helps us kind of get the idea of what's going on neurologically. Let's dig in. Although I'm allergic to trivia, if you have a specific question, or when you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. And of course, be sure to click the send icon. Let's chant. I pay homage to the Bhagavan glorious Vajrasattva. The total space of Vajrasattva is the ever good and immense ultimate dimension of phenomena. Being the pure total path that liberates all, it does not arise or cease, it does not think of anything. So we don't have to worry about earning a PhD. It's super easy. All we got to do is notice in harmony with our in-breath, just the way we evolved to do, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system. All we got to do is physically relax in harmony with our exhalation, just like we evolved to do, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, and everything else will take care of itself. Being love and thus thoroughly accomplish, it does not practice great compassion. Being great, these profound qualities of greatness need not be praised. So, Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything is crap, including most meditation instruction. If someone is so cranky and so uptight that they have to force themselves and coerce themselves to practice even an analog of love, that's not really the path you want. Listen, we are all complex life forms on Earth evolved a section of our brain dedicated to empathy. It's known as the anterior cingulate gyrus. It functions as the hub of our mirror neurons. We don't have to force love. It's already baked into our cake, metaphorically speaking. If all we do twice a day is set aside some time to notice in harmony with our inhalation and relax in harmony with our exhalation, love will take care of itself. Perhaps that is why Tibet's Dzogchen Lamas teach that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. Phenomena do not move the authentic condition, since self-originating wisdom is beyond searching. In liberating itself, it also shows the path of liberation. We don't have to knock on people's doorsteps and wake them up on Saturday morning and pick fights with them about metaphysics. If we practice the path, if we practice mindfulness and meditation in such a way that it gives birth to the centered spontaneity that can guide our choices and utterances and deeds, then just by living our life, people will be spontaneously drawn to the Buddha's path without us ever worrying about evangelizing. The great elements of the Bhagavan that exist by nature in all beings. However wrongly it may be conceived, liberation originates from oneself and not elsewhere. So this is a reference to Tantra, and it could be described as this. Whatever constituents we have in our body, whether we have studied enough STEM to understand the complete table of elements, or we have a Bronze Age understanding, an Iron Age understanding of the 5 elements, whatever we experience in our body and mind and environment can be thought of as appearing yet not graspable, sensual yet not graspable, resounding yet not graspable, lucid yet not graspable. We are flawed, all of us. If you don't think you're flawed, then you need to date someone, and they will quickly show you just what kind of a bonehead you are. Not overtly, but inadvertently. It's an inevitability. Yet despite our boneheadedness, despite our boneheadery, we are capable of noticing and relaxing and viscerally intuiting mastery of the Buddhist path. Let's return to meditation. We're now going to remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce the clunkiness of our meditation from 12 syllable exercises down to 3 syllable exercises. As we inhale, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this. And as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. Now, hear this. This is not active concentration. We do not concentrate on these words, and if our mind wanders, pull them back. That's an act of violence. We are going to let our mind do what it do. We're going to, as we breathe in, we're going to let our mind notice. We're going to let our mind see and hear and feel and, or let me take that back. We're going to let our body see and hear and feel and taste and smell and the like. We're also going to let our mind emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. During each exhalation, we're already wired to relax, regardless of where our mind goes. Whether our mind goes external or internal, whether it explores the physical or the mental, whether our mind explores the pleasurable or the painful, or the interesting or the boring, or the glorious or the grotesque. We persist with just noticing whatever comes up and relaxing. Think of it this way. It's like going to a theater. We are not the playwright, nor the director, nor the thespian, nor the producer. We're just the bloke what sits in the audience and watches the show. That's it. Welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, type your question in great detail in the chat window. There will be times when we feel like our circumstances or our body or our relationships or our mind is beating us about the head and shoulders. That is an excellent time to play with the 10 labels you see upon the screen. We do not do that to repress our experience, but to harness its energy, just as a water wheel captures the kinetic energy of a stream and uses it to, grind things. We can capture the kinetic momentum of our mind and use it to turn the wheels and gears of the metaphoric enlightenment machine. Let us chant. The wisdom of greatness is difficult to find. It is realized through prajna and prajna and method. Though it could be said to depend on something else, real bliss originates from oneself. This is one verse of several verses that teach the rather controversial idea that we don't need a guru. We don't need to become a mindless minion of orthodoxy. We don't have to be like Mace Windu. We can be like Qui-Gon Jinn. The great miracle is not difficult or qualities and capabilities. Through subtle understanding of the authentic condition immediately arise from oneself. So all that we need to master the Buddha's path is made available to us in the simple mechanism of aligning, noticing, and relaxation with our inhalations and exhalations. Meditation is relaxing without seeking in the nirmata that does not appear visibly. If one actively searches either for the dharmata, if one actively searches either for the dharmata or for something in it, the natural condition will never manifest. This is not the path of effort. It's not the path of striving. It's the path of allowing. The supremely secret reality cannot be heard through the sense of hearing. Likewise, it cannot be expressed by the tongue, not even in the slightest. There's nothing mystical here. Can you describe the taste of a honeydew melon? Of course not. It's good to have a prefrontal cortex. It's wonderful for sorting things or comparing and contrasting and computing and all that kind of good stuff. But it's not the only part of our brain. And the autonomic nervous system in our spinal cord is integral to the path of peace. We now remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels, transitioning from 3-syllable exercises to just 1-syllable exercises. As we breathe in, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym for relax. Clearly, transitioning 3-syllable labels to a 1-syllable format will require a little bit of poetic license. We could refer to the physical experience as form and the emotional experience as feel. We can refer to the mnemonic experience as then and the imagined experience as dream. Let's chant. Attachment to, oopsie, am I on the right page? Not sure. I'm not. Let me fix that real quick. There we go. The suffering of beings is the bodhicitta, that fully manifests while pervading all, without ever being moved it upwards equally just as the reaches of space. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are not an indictment. They are grist for the mill. They are interesting things to notice and to work through the simple method of noticing and relaxing. That which is the equality of all distinctions is conceived by figuratively saying it is karma. Were it really literally under the power of karma, self-originated wisdom would not exist. So when we use karma as a metaphor to say, guys, it's futile to be a control freak, that's great. But when we try to use karma literally as an excuse to be a victim and not to try to notice and relax and do the ebb and flow dance, it kind of bites us in the ass. The causes the Vajra has all these secondary conditions. Never having been born, it cannot be destroyed. Since it is the Buddhi essence that exists from the beginning, the ultimate dimension is not moved by the effort of thought. We have a Buddha nature, which is a quaint Iron Age way of saying we have an anterior cingulate gyrus, which is wired for empathy. We have a sympathetic nervous system, which is wired for noticing, passive noticing. We have a parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired for passive relaxation. And those three support each other synergistically. Meditative stability of supreme quality. Being real meditative stability is beyond the tyranny of thought. Without applying thought or purifying in accordance with nature. From thought itself, wisdom springs forth. Despite the control freaks who try to tell you that you're not supposed to think anything, or that you're only supposed to think good thoughts, they're mistaken. We think whatever comes to mind. Perceptions come to mind. Emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings cartwheel across the stage of our mind. Our job is simple. Notice and relax. Quoting the expression gateway to the subtle, they seek the path by isolating the mind, maintaining isolation in a secluded place, If we examine well, this is a conceptual meditation. There is no need for asceticism. Welcome to the hedonistic, debaucherous, lazy path of enlightenment. They coin the terms cause and effect, but both virtues and negativities dissolve completely. They say we will get out of this world and nurture supreme complacency in accepting and rejecting. One of the easiest ways to practice non-duality is to deliberately use vague labels. So instead of saying beautiful or ugly, we say appearance. Instead of saying delicious or disgusting, we say taste. Instead of saying happy or sad, we say emotion. You get the idea. We're keeping it simple, silly. Attachment and non-attachment are the path of words, and something in the middle is the same like an echo. Happiness and suffering have the same cause, said Vajrasattva, Lord of beings. So Vajrasattva is simply an archetype. But the archetype of wisdom reminds us that everything we experience is just something to notice, and just something to let go of, regardless of what categories it could fit into. All things, all pleasures and all pains can be noticed. All pleasures and all pains can be relaxed into. That is the great unifier. Attachment, anger, and ignorance arise from the path of enlightenment, total bodhi. So right there. What we feel is neither an indictment nor an acquittal. It just is. The five sense objects of enjoyment too are said to be the ornament of the Dharmadhatha dimension. So if I was a better sci-fi geek, I could tell you the name of the book I'm referring to. But there's a sci-fi novel. So there's a Star Trek novel with, I think it was Master and Apprentice. Yes, it was Master and Apprentice with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. And one of Dooku's Padawans turned Jedi Knight is living on this planet, and he's a horn dog. He never met a tavern owner. He didn't enjoy betting, and so whether you are that guy or whether you're Mace Windu, you're the same. Whether you practice, whether you are spontaneously asexual or spontaneously pansexual, or whether you are the same. You are something that can be noticed, something that can be released. So we do not have to flee sense objects, nor do we have to chase them. And of course, this reminds me of a wonderful line from Altered Carbon. I'm going to paraphrase it. We are emissaries. We are emissaries. We accept what is given. Welcome aboard the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Space is beyond the arising of thought, and thought itself is like space. Without attachment from space dedication, one's great aim manifests as space. We do not have to chase after our goals. We simply notice whatever occurs, we relax in whatever occurs, and everything takes care of itself. Vafriya quality is the Dharmakaya mastery of awareness and letting go. Like the moon's reflection in water, it cannot be grasped. Through the energy manifestation of Samantha Mantra, the Ali Kali or vowels and consonants are profoundly displayed. In an illiterate culture, those who can read seem like magicians. Through the beautiful Tadipa and the emanated branches, in the sphere of experience of the whole world, the profound voice of the Buddha arises. No one in their right mind would deny the fact that words can be powerful. Words in our own language can guide our thoughts and emotions. Some syllables can affect us electrically. But the most profound experience is not from the mystical. It's just from noticing and releasing. Wonderful the sphere of experience of the moon. This is not a place to be found by searching. And like the phenomena of the six senses, it is also not an object we should grasp after. Those who search for it are like the blind reaching for the sky. This is not shamanism. We don't have to go to a sacred site. We don't have to practice geomancy. We don't have to look for ley lines or sacred tchotchkes. All we need to do is sit comfortably, notice and relax in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, and everything will take care of itself. The gradual path of purity that leads higher and higher does not correspond to the nature behind action. Were there really a path to tread just like the bounds of the sky, one would never arrive. I'm not sure if you're as geeky as me, but if you've ever read, I think it was Larry Niven's Ringworld, towards the end of the book, spoiler alert, towards the end of the book, there's some adventurer who's determined to travel until he finds the end of the ring, not understanding that by definition there is no end of a ring is circular, so that guy's going to be traveling forever. Likewise, there are people who are rigid, there are teachers who, some are rigid and fearful and controlling and elitist and cryptic and competitive and cruel, and some maliciously teach and others just mindlessly believe that we need a gradual path of purification. But the Buddha said full enlightenment can be accomplished in a week. And this is the same Buddha who taught against austerities. So it's super simple. It can be done really quickly. Good old Zen Master Dogen taught sitting was enlightenment. And that's metaphoric, and let's reverse engineer the metaphor. Practicing these instructions is liberation. Mastering these instructions is enlightenment. Mastering anything means doing it so well that we do it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively, like tying your shoelaces or brushing your teeth or wiping your tuchus. We're pretty good at these things by the time we're an adult. The authentic condition being thus by being shown as it is attained. As it is in the very essence, its manifestation arises from it, O how marvelous. It's not something difficult. We're already wired to do it. All we need to do is get out of our own way. Time past and time present, or the authentic condition that is complete in its own place. Likewise, its path is the sameless, is its very nature. So there are a bunch of people who are really controlling and rigid. And not only will they say, dude, you can't think thoughts, they'll also say you can't remember and you can't fantasize. Stick right here. Pin your mind. Crucify your mind. Here, quick, here's a hammer and nail. Knock yourself out. Dude, we're allowed to notice whatever comes up. Even if whatever comes up is a memory. Even if whatever comes up is a fantasy. Let it. There's a wonderful t-shirt. Let me know if you've seen it. Whatever comes, let it come. That's what the t-shirt says. Whatever stays, let it stay. Whatever goes, let it go. I don't know about you, but I was a dick growing up. Like many, what's it called, neurodivergence, I was prone to meltdowns. I wouldn't harm people. I would harm drywall. I would make an ass of myself, and not in the sexy way, in the shitheady way. And it's not because of psychological problems, it's because of physiological problems. But one of the things that happens when you're neurodivergent is that certain things trigger our fight and flight response. And then our meltdown or our shutdown is a response to that, to either fight or faint. These are primal responses. But we can shortcut that. We can interrupt the pattern by noticing and releasing, and that's already wired to our breathing. So as long as we're alive, as long as we're respirating, we can practice the path, even if we do so in a sloppy and undignified manner. The universal path is the same as that, is like the union on the basis of its is like the moon on the basis of its reflection. As it is the absolute equality of all, it is not realized with a limited view. Our rigidity, our preconception, does not serve us. I know what it's like to be self-righteous. I thought that was the key to being popular in religious organizations during my many adventures. I found that being self-righteous, being rigid, being dogmatic might impress the tourists, but it doesn't really impress anybody who you want to make a life partner. It doesn't impress yourself. There is no joy. There is no peace in dogmatism. Better to be less like Mace Windu and more like Qui-Gon Jinn. Wrong button. Okay, here we go. Present bliss and later bliss, or what is directly experienced and what ensues from it. Since they imply the defect of an aspect, one should not rely on them. We do not chase bliss. We do what we have evolved to do, notice and release. We evolved to be empathetic. The fruit of noticing and releasing is a centered spontaneity. When that loving centered spontaneity influences our choices, utterances, and deeds, then we are the person that our dog already thinks we are. The three times are one without distinction, without past or future. It exists from the beginning. Please excuse the stutter. Since all pervaded by the Dharmakaya, that is the mastery of awareness and releases the same. It abides in nature's total greatness. Once again, if you have a memory, you're allowed to remember. If you have a fantasy, you're allowed to fantasize. Finding oneself in the three realms of existence, all is just a name and a magical illusion. Even the great status of a Chakravartin universal king, being a magical illusion, is an abode to purify. Whatever we notice when we breathe out, whether it's glorious or whether it's grotesque, once we relax into our exhalation, it's going to feel much less graspable. And that applies to everything. For those whose attitude depends on time, it does not manifest in time. If one practices with an aspiration without being free, the saying on the characteristic of emptiness applies. Don't chase goals, no matter how altruistic or lofty they may be. Just sit, notice, relax, and flow. The less goals we have, the more we flow and set ourselves up to flow, the happier we'll be. And the more good we'll do for the world around us. It is one totally beyond an aspect. The yogi dwells in the pathways, the birds in the skies. In the essence that never occurred and never originated. Where are all phenomena supposed to exist? All we do, all we experience, all we desire, all we fear, can be noticed and released. Outer and inner, or both, the outer is the inner. The profound is not an object of understanding, not even a part of it. Existence is only a name, the power of mistaken existence. This one remains separate from the quality of meditation. So let's not get lost or seduced by names and charts and ways of organizing things. There's only here and there. There's only now and later, or now and then. There's only this or that. Let's just keep it simple. It is the outer and inner samayasa. It is the outer and inner samayasa, but in the nature of the aggregate sense and spaces. Since in the three times no one is ever separate from it, there is no need to ever use the word samaya. Manipulative folk like to coerce others with threats of eternal punishment from breaking their spiritual commitments. But doing things out of hope for reward or fear of punishment is not love. We're already wired for empathy. We might not know what the loving thing is, but we choose love. We choose we're wired for empathy. We're wired for love. We might not know the specific best thing to do or say, but if we allow ourselves to flow from love's centered spontaneity, we'll either do or say the perfect thing at the perfect time, or we will learn from that experience. It's not always comfortable, but it is the surest path. Immovable is the symbol of the body, unshakable it is wisdom. Not taking hold of anything, it has no self. Not rejecting anything, it has the equality that transcends words. So when we breathe, when we relax into our exhalation, whatever sense of self we might have experienced during our inhalation could now feel less graspable. Notwithstanding what, whose, and where, all that one uses and enjoys arises from oneself. Here of males and females, the king of equality has never spoken. Whatever, as we physically relax into our exhalation, whatever genders or races or classes or species we may have noticed during our inhalation could feel less graspable. Every living being is an object of empathy, an opportunity for cooperation. Here there is no mention of something to accomplish by means of resolute, forceful conduct, but it is deemed that possessing the art and the path of bliss of magical illusion arises. Since nature cannot be defined in one single way, it appears according to how one looks at it. Even the bliss from the effort and the wish for its manifestation is a great hindrance and defect. Can you contrive bliss? Yes. Is it worth the effort? No. Can you use mantras? Maha mantras, which are polysyllabic, and bija mantras, which are monosyllabic. Can you use those to generate bliss? Yes. Is it worth the effort? No. In all the secondary methods for Bodhi enlightenment, one meditates on the attributes of a tantric archetype like the moon's reflection on water. But even if something untainted and unattached results, such meditation is like the sphere of experience of an ordinary person. Visualizing archetypes does not a Buddha make. Although by identifying with the body of the great wrathful one, let's try this again. Although by identifying with the body of the great wrathful one archetype, with its body wrathful grimaces as well as attributes, with even the suitable concretely actualize the authentic condition of the quiescent state is not seen. You can do the Mahayoga of visualizations and their metaphors perfectly. You can do the Anuyogas of channels, winds, and drops perfectly. It's not going to liberate you. Just as the top of a palm tree is cropped and just as a seed is burnt by fire, likewise the dominion of powerful emotions may be prevented as some have taught. All the hundreds and thousands of methods, according to one practice, is bear the specific fruit. But since enlightenment is beyond conceptual characteristics, it is not manifest from these abodes. If you look hard enough, you can find someone who will say anything. Just because they say it doesn't mean it's correct. Doesn't mean they're lying. This doesn't mean they're correct. We live in a weird world where doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists have less authority than insurance companies. Insurance companies who have sworn no oath to do no harm and who will gladly kill someone to incrementally increase their profit. These people, over the last 30, 40 years have influenced what counselors do and say. Not everything, not all therapies are created equal. Not all therapists are created equal. Just because a man or woman of letters does something or is told to do something doesn't mean it's helpful. There is nothing as useful as noticing and releasing the great boon of our autonomic nervous system is a treasure we overlook at our peril. Good fortune has a yogi who abides in this indescribable state. For by not discriminating between self and others, the magical illusion of self-perfection manifests. Whatever sense of self we notice as we breathe in, we are wired to relax as we breathe out, and therefore release it. Whatever sense of others we perceive as we breathe in, we're wired to let go of during our exhalation as we relax. Therefore, all sense of self and all sense of other share the same common denominator of the illusion of non-graspability. As nothing is excluded, it is perfectly complete. It is unchanging and remains straight. Boundless like space, it is not a phenomenon, it depends on something else. Any complex organism that respirates can practice the path. The spontaneously existing total bliss arises from one's recognition through the very power of incomparable wisdom. Reality does not originate from anything else. We don't need theories. We don't need... Oh, what's that thing that Ted Kaczynski wrote? You don't need manifestos. It is easy and difficult, and it is difficult because it is easy. It does not manifest directly, but it is all-pervading. Not even Vajrasattva can point it out with a name saying this is it. Enlightenment is not an island you can swim to, or build a bridge to, or take a boat to. It's simply the mastery of noticing and relaxing. That's it. That's why so many refer to it as nothing special. This amazing, marvelous energy manifestation is beyond action, unequal to space. From the ignorance that does not conceptualize anything, it immediately arises within oneself. So the energy we're talking here is like the kinetic momentum of experience that we do not try to repress, we simply try to harness with the clever use of words, such as this. Those of us who have a modicum of intellectual pride are insulted by how easy the path is to simply physically relax during our exhalation. Involuntarily causes our minds that we think are so clever to simply release its metaphoric grip. That which is an insult to the pseudo-intellectual is a delight to the wise. This is the path equal for all, that naturally abides in all beings. But since ordinary people order to defilement, it is like when the doctor has to find the medicine. There we go. This path is easy, but those who think it is too much trouble to sit and breathe will feel that it is a miraculous tincture that they think they need a prescription for. In the domain of understanding is total bliss. That itself is like the utterly pure land of Avanti. When the let's coalesce from all sides, the four directions, the intermediate ones, the above and below are produced. Let us consider the 7 enlightenment factors, specifically the 6th one. Coalescence. Every time we breathe in, our air coalesces within our lungs, pretty much by definition, but so do our perceptions and so do our awareness, and that's what we're referring to right here. From the indefinite colors of the rainbow, the features of the five Buddha families manifestly appear, and likewise the moving particles in the unmoving environment, but it is superior to the 5 elements. So this is just in reference to the 5 Buddha body mandala that was very popular at the time that this text was written. And basically what's being told is we don't need something elaborate. To notice and relax is enough. To notice and relax is everything we need to do to recognize Nagarjuna's 2 truths of the conventional and the ultimate. It is not about in the designations of past, future, and present. Understanding that it has no arising nor ceasing, that itself is the integration of the three tomes into the total state. Whatever arising we notice as we breathe in could feel empty as we breathe out. Whatever cessation we notice as we breathe in could feel empty as we breathe out. Being equal, there is nothing to arrange gradually. Being one, it is beyond dedicating something in a direction. Although the ornaments of accumulated offerings are arrayed, since they exist by nature, there is nothing to array. The Buddha was not a big fan of ritual, offerings, and the invocations and the like. The Dhammapada we read, and I paraphrase, better to spend 1 hour in meditation than a lifetime spent tending a sacred flame. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is nectar. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused on with special attention. So this is another passage where it just states, please don't concentrate. Please don't have an agenda. Notice whatever comes up. Be vulnerable. This is scary. Be vulnerable to whatever comes up, be it glorious or grotesque. The intention of the mind is the donor, appraisal through the power of perception. In the city, accomplishment that arises from having seen balanced meditation is perfected. Simply by noticing whatever comes up, we master the path. Keeping it for an instant is union. Experiencing pleasure is samaya. Performing the dance movements of method, the union of non-duality is offered. What is the best offering we could offer our teacher? The enthusiastic application of his or her instructions. Giving without holding is the Dharmake offering. Being beyond action, all activities are completed. Since non-conceptual wisdom eliminates obstructors, balance meditation without speaking is the mantra. Many practitioners of Tantra fear the scary monsters, be they real or metaphoric. But according to this text, the founder of Dzogchen reminds us the ultimate protections against the filthy McNasties is simply noticing and relaxing. Making offerings due to Guru generosity and all the other meritorious deeds, without the power of detachment and imperturbability, become a great bondage. Oh, please let us not stumble and get hung up with the external trappings. Therefore, that which is expressed in this teaching becomes obscured when one tries to act towards it. Being thus, if it is conceptualized, it will never be realized. We have permission right here to not overthink things. Let us seal this evening's practice with two chants, those of kind ethics and those of the four immeasurables. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel if you wish. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.